Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, all. We'll get started shortly. Let's see, I saw one person was driving, so make sure, you turn the screen off. We want to make sure that you're driving safely to your destination. If you guys need to grab some water, go ahead and do that. I'm excited about today's presentation.
Good afternoon, China.
Hi, how's it going?
Great.
And if you guys can hop on and show your face, we always like to see faces so that we can get engaged and interactive. You can also type any questions that you might have in the chat. We'll be answering those towards the end of the presentation. But please write them down because sometimes it's easy for us to forget. All right, it's good to see you guys. And there's some new faces in there as well as some familiar faces. Hi, Ria.
Hi.
All right, Brenda, Shelly, Lori, Claire, Angeli. I think I'm saying that right. Good morning. And I think we're all ladies, so Paige, put your seatbelt on.
Well, see, when it said Paige, they probably thought I was a girl, so they're like, "Who's this guy?"
All righty. Well, let's get started. We want to welcome you to today's presentation for our top women owned franchises. And this is with one of our partners, Frannet. And we're just excited to provide you with a wealth of information that will be shared today. And let's have a great time. It is Women's History Month. So what I would like for you guys to do is to drop in the chat any woman that has empowered, encouraged, enlightened your path and your journey of being a woman entrepreneur. It could be somebody close to you. It could be somebody that is famous. If you guys can just drop those women in the chat, that'd be great. We want to kind of highlight some of those ladies that have blazed a path for us. Rihanna, my granny. Who else do you guys have? And you could come off a chat real quick if you want to shout it out. Issa Rae. Awesome. Dana Owens, Queen Latifah. Perfect. I love these ones. Well, if you can think of any other ones, you can continue to drop those in the chat, Oprah. And we love to see what the impact that we're making as mothers, as caregivers, as entrepreneurs, as just all of the labels and the hats that we wear, wives, girlfriends, all of the things. Yes, all of the things. So just give yourself a pat on the back and a hand clap because you guys are doing amazing work. We're all doing amazing work, and just being reminded that we are making history. So it's not just those that have blazed a path for us, but also the impact and the paths that we're taking to continue to create history for those that are coming behind us. So if this is your first time to the SBDC, and I know it's not for some of you all, because I'm familiar with some of you all's faces. The SBDC, we are a national program with over 1,000 locations across the US, and there's a few that are outside of the US. And we are associated with the Small Business Administration, the SBA, um, here to provide one-on-one advising, entrepreneurial workshops, as well as access to capital. This is a no cost, no catch program, and it is your tax dollars at work. So, make sure that you're utilizing it. It's a great service to utilize, and we share a wealth of knowledge, resources, and all kinds of other golden gems as well. So just about who we are and what we do. Again, with the one-on-one advising and the entrepreneurial workshops, which is like these workshops that we're putting together, like the one for today, providing strategic planning, startup process, marketing and social media, access to capital, financial assistance, business plans, government contracting, procurement, certifications, anything that you can think of associated with developing, starting a small business. We do that here. And if we don't have the answers to the questions, we'll reach out to somebody that we know and we'll get you guys an answer fairly quickly. So my name is China Naylor. I am the Associate Director here with PCR Business Finance. I'll actually be celebrating 7 years with the organization on the 21st of this month. And so I'm just excited to continue the work that we're doing here at PCR SBDC, and can't wait to hear more success stories from you. We have today our keynote speaker, Mr. Page Nickel. He has been involved as a franchise owner, developer, and consultant for almost 30 years. After graduating from University of San Diego, Page started in commercial real estate as a retail specialist. In 2001, Page purchased, along with his brother, Frannet Southern California, and later Frannet Pacific Northwest. These Frannet territories are the top producing areas in the United States and consistently help hundreds of individuals successfully start their own business. Along with UPS and Frannet, Page has started more than a dozen different businesses, ranging from marketing to consulting, commercial signage, and executive suite offices. He takes his wide-ranging knowledge of business ownership and shares it with other individuals looking to learn how to start their own business. So let's welcome Page Nickel.
Thank you. All right, let me see if I can get my screen going.
Oh, well, we have a poll too. So we have a poll.
Oh, okay, I'll wait till you're done.
So we do have a poll. So we want to hear from you guys. Have you ever thought about running a franchise? So Briajani Sanders, our marketing coordinator, she'll share that. If you guys can respond to this question, that would be great. So the answers are yes, no, not yet, yes, but don't know where to start. Let's hear from you guys. All right, just a few more seconds. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's go ahead and share those results. All righty, so have you ever thought about running a franchise? 55% has said yes. 18% said no, and then 3% said yes, but I don't know where to start. So thank you guys for helping and enlightening us on where you are with franchising. And we will move right to the next slide for the presentation. Okay, whenever you're ready.
All right, let's see if we got it. Can you see that?
Perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That's a great introduction. I hate to do this, but I am going to date myself. I've been doing this almost 40 years. I
Woohoo.
probably need to update you. I think it's like 27 or 37, 38 years. So welcome everyone. And looks like we have a good group. And actually, I was kind of pleased to see that more than half of the people on today's webinar have thought about starting a franchise. So we're going to kind of, go into that a little bit, but let me tell you, before I introduce myself and a little bit more about my background, why I wanted to do this presentation. I'm glad it tied into what's going on this month. But what's really important is over the years, I've put thousands of people into business, and I would say more than half are women. Sometimes they're going to be the primary operator, and maybe their husband may be part of the investment, but they're going to be the primary operator. And in many cases, they are the exclusive operator. So we're going to cover some of the statistics about that too. But I really wanted to project a lot about why women are starting franchises, what are some of the obstacles, some of the things that have to be thought about, what are some of the top businesses and so forth. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just introduce today's agenda. So maybe one of the first things to cover is, why are women going into franchising? What is unique about franchising that women are thinking about that way to go into business? Because it's not the only way. What business statistics are there around women? There's actually quite a lot, so I'm just going to cover some of the basics. What franchises are they buying? There's some specific industries and categories, and some specific companies that I'll let you know a little bit more about. And then I think it was brought up earlier, how do you balance everything? Kids, family, job, business, personal time, all these other things. How do we balance that? And then making a good decision. It's really important to make a good decision on how to start the right franchise. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And we're also going to bring up some information on financing, where to get the funds to do this, and also next steps. In other words, for those of you who said, hey, I'm interested, but I don't know where to get started, that's actually where most of my clients are. They really don't know where to get started. So I'm going to maybe take a little bit of the mystery out of that. So you did a great job of introducing me, but I do want to say that I got started back in 1987. So quite a long time ago. And for those of you that may remember, back in the early 80s, there was a relatively new startup in San Diego called Mailboxes, Etc. We know it now as the UPS store, and I think they have close to 6,000 units open. But when I got started back in the 80s, I think they had a couple hundred. So I actually became the master developer for the UPS store in San Diego, and I built, developed, and sold 65 UPS stores. And I will say more than half of those were female owned and operated. And some of the most successful locations were run by women. So UPS store is actually one of those businesses you do see a lot of women in, because it's a very dynamic business. It's relatively easy to operate and so forth. So we'll kind of interject that a little bit into today's presentation. But about 30 years ago, I got involved with Frannet. Now, Frannet is a franchise, and I would say probably 70% of our franchises are female owned, as well as most of the top producing locations. My brother and I run Southern California and the Pacific Northwest. He lives up in Oregon. I live in Southern California. And, we help develop in those regions. I also own a Stretch Lab franchise in San Diego. For those of you who aren't familiar with Stretch Lab is the #1 one-on-one assisted stretching franchise. And I think we're a little over 400 locations. But as mentioned, I've owned and developed dozens of franchise and non-franchise concepts. But I think the important thing is I've really helped a lot of people become self-employed, and that's really my passion. The best thing I can ever do is someone comes and says, I'm not sure what I want to do, but I've thought about going into business for myself, and I can help them, live that dream. So as far as what Frannet does, I'm not really going to belabor the point here, but the best way to think about what I do to help people is like working with a real estate agent to help you find a house. Oftentimes when people are interested in buying a house, they go online, maybe Zillow or Realtor.com or something like that, and they put in some search parameters and dozens, sometimes hundreds of homes come up, and then people scroll through the pictures. But if you really are serious and you really want to buy a house, let's say in a specific region, you usually start getting a real estate agent involved. And you go to that agent and you sit down with them and you tell them everything you're looking for. And they take those dozens or 100 homes that you were looking at and they narrow it down to 3, 4, 5, or 6 homes. And then they help you go out and look at those homes. And if you find one you like, they help you purchase that home and take you through the buying process. I do the same thing. The difference is I work with about 400 franchises. So when people come to me, I help them narrow down the choices and take them through the purchasing process and financing and everything else. So I'm a free resource. I don't charge for what I do. So let's look at some of the statistics. And I thought some of these, and these are relatively new. Over a third of franchises are owned exclusively by women. And like I said, sometimes it's a husband and wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, or partner, but the women are the primary operators. But I thought it was interesting, a third of franchises out there, and there are tens of thousands, are owned and operated exclusively by women. And the other thing is that the number of women-owned franchises increased greatly in 2022, and it increased even more in 2023, and 2024 is looking to be even better than that. And I'll go through some of the reasons why I think women are looking at franchising as a vehicle for help them to become an entrepreneur. But in a general statistic, I thought this is really interesting. 12.3 million businesses out there, that's a lot, are women-owned. And women-owned businesses contribute almost $2 trillion a year to GDP. That's a lot of money. So franchise is a big segment of that, but I wanted to show you just business ownership in general and the amount of money that women-owned businesses bring to GDP is great. So it's a really important thing to look at. So when I started doing this back in the 80s, and I don't really think it's changed much, why are women coming to me and saying they want to own a business? A lot of times it's success. So I see it in all different ways. Sometimes women are in a corporate job. And they're saying, hey, you know what? I kind of want to have my own success. I want to be a little bit more independent. Sometimes they stayed home, they raised the family, but now they want to go out and do something on their own. Or they're even going into retirement and they're not ready to, sit at home and play golf. They want to, provide and contribute and be fulfilled. So fulfillment, success, flexibility, working with kids and jobs and travel and all the other things that you all do, flexibility is really important. So one of the nice things about owning a business is you could have a lot more flexibility in your schedule. Control is important. Financial security. Let's not lie to ourselves. California is a very, very expensive place to live. And I know some of you probably see some of the statistics about how much money you have to, to go into retirement comfortably in California. It's a lot. So a lot of times people are coming and saying, hey, I want more financial security. I want to have another source of income. And then, as we'll talk about further on, work-life balance. So all these things come into play. And these, by the way, men, have some of the same needs as well. But I see women, it's a little bit different in terms of percentages of what they want. So as far as industries, just to let you know, there's over 100 different franchise industries out there. So there's a lot. But some of the ones that are popular with women that I've seen, senior care. Women in general are very good with family. They like to help others. So a lot of it, and I know I've experienced this when, you have a loved one, a parent or a sibling or something that needs in-home care or senior care. That's something that really needs to be taken care of. And there's a lot of compassion there. Children's education, after school health and wellness, this is becoming really important. Whereas we used to see, at least when I was going to school, the school itself did most of the after school programs, whether it be baseball or, fitness or things like that. Now there are franchises that are coming in to do a lot of the after school health and wellness programs. Semi-absentee retail. So there's a lot of companies that we'll discuss that are semi-absentee, but basically semi-absentee means you don't have to be there full time. So if you have a corporate job and you say, hey, Paige, I need to continue that job, it's important that I keep that income going. There are businesses that can be run with as little as 10 to 15 hours a week. Pet and pet-related franchises are very popular. There's a lot of us, myself included, that have pets and they have needs. And then beauty. And I hope I'm okay saying this, but it's funny, as a man, sometimes I don't understand why certain industries, certain businesses do so well. And so my favorite one is eyelash extension. My wife loves to do eyelash extension. And when I first was introduced to Amazing Lash and Lash Lounge and some of these other companies, I viewed it as a luxury. And my wife came to me and she's like, nope, 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 it's not a luxury. She said, I would give up my gym membership and going out to dinner before I would give up doing eyelashes. And so I started to realize there are a lot of beauty industries that maybe as a guy, I think they're kind of luxuries, but for women, they're actually a necessity or something very, very high on the list. So I've learned that. So there are a lot of beauty-related franchises out there that do quite well. So what are the pros and cons of franchising? So one of the things I generally tell people is franchising is not for everyone. Having said that, there are some very strategic advantages, and there are reasons why women come to me that want to buy a franchise versus doing their own startup. So one is name recognition. We've heard of Crumble Cookies, we've heard of the UPS store, we've heard of Lash Lounge. Some of these other companies, it's like, hey, I want to do something where there's some name recognition versus doing the same thing as my own startup. Probably the most important thing is a proven system. One of the advantages of franchising is they basically give you a menu. You follow this process, and these are going to be your results. And so that is very comforting. Most of my clients are very, very risk adverse. So they don't want to go out there and put their money at risk. So they want something that's proven that dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people have done before them, and we know it works. Also, you're going to get training and support. You don't have to do this by yourself. The failure rate for franchises is actually fairly low, especially compared to startups. There's a lot more financing options. And then we're going to talk about some of the disclosure processes with franchises that make it very regulated and also make it very safe. But when you look at the last one, franchise family, this is something that a lot of people don't realize is out there. I tell people when you buy a franchise, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So what do I mean by that? So if we look at the UPS store, they have almost 6,000 locations. There are people out there every day that are doing this. We learn from what they're doing well and what they're not doing well. Stretch Lab has almost 500 locations. Frannet has over 50 locations. And so we all get together every week and we have Zoom calls, or we're texting each other, or we're doing conferences. So the nice thing is there's other people. I feel like I'm part of a family, that I'm not out there by myself trying to figure this out. Having said that, it's very structured. So that's one of the things you have to understand. If you're very entrepreneurial, really creative, and you really don't want to follow someone else's way of doing it, sometimes franchising is not a very good way. You do have restrictions on the territory. Sometimes that's a zip code. Sometimes it's a 2-mile radius. But you do have a restriction on where you can do business. And then you have to pay royalties. So you're getting all the training, support, name recognition, and everything else, but you're paying for that with royalties. And royalties can be 5, 6, sometimes 7% of your gross revenue. So you have to be okay that you have to pay for all the training, support, and name recognition you're going to get. As far as the regulation goes, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but every franchise in the United States has to file what's called a franchise disclosure document, or FDD. They have to file it with the Federal Trade Commission every year. They always have to renew it. And in California, they have to file it with the Department of Corporations. And what's in there is, information that you need to know. How long have these people been in business? What's their background? Have they ever filed any bankruptcies? Do they have any pending litigation against them? What does it cost? Not just, it's a $200,000 franchise, but, break it down for me. How much is working capital? How much is equipment? How much is marketing? What are the royalties I'm going to have to pay? And in the franchise contract itself, what are my obligations as a franchisee? What am I obligated to do? And the franchisor, what are they obligated to do contractually? What does the territory look like? Earnings claims, how much money can I make in this business? What are the financial statements of the parent company? But you see in bold there, you get a listing of all the current and past franchisees, including their phone numbers and email addresses. Now, why would you want that? Because you want to talk to the people that are doing this on a daily basis. Are they happy? How many hours are they working? How are they balancing their job, their family, all their other activities? How much time does this franchise, take on a daily or weekly basis? So all this information is in this 200 to 300 page document that is given to you if you're looking at a franchise. Now, a lot of times people come to me and they hear that franchises are expensive. So, they look at McDonald's, and McDonald's are, $1 to $2 million. They look at crumble cookies or nothing but cakes, and, those can be $1 million or more. Even a UPS store can be $400,000 or more. So why this chart is out there is I wanted to show that almost half of over 4,000 franchises that are out there are under $250,000 total investment, and a good percentage of those are under $100,000. So honestly, when people come to me, sometimes people have, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in savings, or, somewhere where they can access money. Maybe they have equity in their home. Maybe they have a portfolio they can borrow against, or more likely, they're going to get a small business administration loan. So generally with an SBA loan, you have to put about 20 to 30% of your own capital into the business, and SBA will finance the rest. But I just wanted to show this, that you don't have to spend an incredible amount of money to buy a franchise. Oh, what happened there? There we go. Where does that money come from? Like I said, home equity line of credit, seller financing. You'll see 401k and IRA. This doesn't mean you just pull money out of your 401k, but there are actually programs where you can access money out of your retirement funds without any taxes or penalties for taking that money out, as long as that money goes to start a business. So there's all kinds of programs, and usually when people come to me, we look at all the different options so we come up with the best funding strategy. Other things that franchisors are looking from you: will you follow their system? Do you have the management skills and communication skills? Now, by the way, this doesn't mean that if you're in IT or you're in marketing or you're in education that you have to have the same skills that the business has. In fact, if you look at the bottom there, less than 25% of the people that go into franchising do anything related to the industry they're in. But there are certain skill sets you have, and we call these transferable skill sets, which are important. So one of the things I wanted to do is look at franchises, and I just picked a few here that were founded and are operated by women, and there are a lot of them out there. So a lot of franchises you see, if you start doing some of the investigation, these are franchises that were founded and started by women. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're exclusively owned by women. Some are and some aren't. Dry Bar is a good example. So many of you are probably familiar with Dry Bar. That is a women owned and operated franchise, but believe it or not, a lot of men buy that franchise as well. So as we talked about before, fitness is a real popular industry. A lot of my clients are looking at boutique fitness, whether it's yoga, cycling, personal training, stretching, what have you. So Fit 20 is one of those. It's actually a fairly low investment, about $80,000 to $150,000. They have 150 units owned and operated in 7 countries, and it's a membership-based business, which means it has a lot of ongoing revenue. So Fit 20 is a great business. Personal training and fitness is a very top-of-mind category. Bright Star. Some of you may have seen Shelly Sun. I'm really good friends with her and her husband. And Shelly started Bright Star, I think about like here over 20 years ago. And you see her commercials on TV all the time. It is an in-home senior care business. They have over 360 units operating. Investment or in the $110,000 to almost $200,000 range. And senior care is a $150 billion industry. That was another industry that I brought up that a lot of women are looking at because senior care is a growing and dynamic industry to go into. And dog care. A lot of us are pet owners like myself. And the pet industry, whether it be dogs or cats or what have you, is really growing and expanding. So I work with a lot of pet-based franchises. Dogtopia is one of these companies. Now it's more expensive because it's a very large, retail operation. You can see it's $800,000 to $1,000 to almost $1.5 million. But believe it or not, there's a lot of financing out there for that. And Dogtopia has a little over 350 units open. So I just kind of wanted to show you fitness, senior care, pet care. These are industries that a lot of women, when they come to me, are interested in. One of the things that I have found, and there's a statistic on this, but women tend to go into businesses they're passionate about more than men. And I thought that was really interesting, but it really makes sense. So let's say dogs, a lot of women come to me and say, hey, I really like pets, it's important to me. Or I have a mom who, is in senior care, or I have kids, or, these types of things. So I tend to find women more than men will do something that they're personally passionate about. Sometimes men come to me and they say, all they care about is the bottom line. What's the ROI? And even though that's okay, I mean, it is important to make good money. Sometimes doing a business that you're interested in and have some passion for can make it much more interesting and will help you be much, much more successful. Now, remember when we started, I said I'm like a real estate agent. So one of the things I do is help people create a business model. Like that real estate agent helps you create a model of what the ideal home looks like. I help you create a model of what the ideal business looks like, and it's different for every person. So some of the things we look at, first of all, are do you want to do something full-time or part-time? We call these semi-absentee businesses. Sometimes they're called the executive model. This is where you work on the business, not in the business. So, for example, when I owned my UPS stores, I did not work behind the counter. I had general managers run those businesses for me. Stretch Lab, I do not work in the business. I have a general manager running that business for me. The advantage of this, and why a lot of women I work with seek these types of businesses, is they can work these businesses remotely. So if they have a full-time job, they can put in maybe 10, 15, or 20 hours a week in addition to the job they're running, or if they have family, or if they're taking care of an elderly parent or something like that, they can't physically go to the business on a daily basis. So that's why we say you're working on the business, not in the business. A lot of growth and investment. This can become a passive investment for you, but you still need to provide the leadership for the business, but you don't need to necessarily have industry experience. So it's really important you understand this. This is not a passive business like, let's say, a coin laundry business where you go in at the end of the day and take the proverbial change out of the machine. They don't work like that. The businesses still have to have an owner involved in the business. It just doesn't need to be full time, and you don't have to physically go to the business. Now, sometimes people, when we were talking about passion, people say, no, I want to be in the business. I love fitness. I love pets. I love seniors. I love, children education and wellness programs and so forth. So I want to do that. So you're working in the business more. And again, you're providing leadership, but you're also doing the direct supervision. So if you have employees, you're actually providing that direct supervision on a daily basis. I tend to find that when women do these owner-operated business, they want to build teams. So these are businesses that they want to be involved in on a full-time basis. But again, you don't need to have any industry experience to do them. So how do you find your best fit? I think when we did the poll in the beginning, I think there was 27% of you when you did the poll said, hey, I wouldn't know I want to do it, but I don't know where to get started. Well, the first thing we have to look at is your business model and what is going to be a good fit for you. And what's even more important, and what is not going to fit well for you. So things we look at, work-life balance. In all the years I've been doing that, I've never had anyone that said they want less work-life balance. Both men and women, when they come to me, they say, hey, I want to travel more. I want to spend more time with my kids or go to their events, or I want to spend more time with my grandkids, or I want to pursue another passion. So yes, they want to run a business, but they also want to have a life. So they don't want a business that's going to control them. We all hear about the nightmare of people that own these, let's say a restaurant, and they're working, 6, 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day. So work-life balance really comes into play. Obviously, the business has to have growth opportunity. As much as I love businesses like the UPS store and some of the other things I've been involved in, there's not a lot of growth opportunity left in those businesses. I was involved in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, and that company was growing leaps and bounds, but it's very much plateaued off. So we want to look at what are the new companies, what are the new industries that are growing. Do you want to keep your corporate job? Like I said, some people need to. They say, hey, I need the health benefits, I need the income. I want to run a business, but I can't, spend full time in it. A lot of my clients are looking for what we call a corporate exit strategy. Okay, I'm going to keep my job, but I'd like to make enough income in this business so that I can exit that job in maybe the next 2 or 3 years. The business needs to be scalable. So a lot of my clients will do a single unit, but a lot of my clients over time will want to do more than, 1 unit. Minimum income, how much money do you need to make? And within what period of time? So if you're working a corporate job, you might say, well, I can afford to go a year or two without the business making money as long as I have my corporate job. But if you leave that corporate structure, some people say, well, no, I need to make money pretty quickly because I need to replace my income. And then we also want to look at the maximum budget. What is the maximum overall investment? And then how much of your own capital would you be willing to put into that business based on the income projections? Other things to think about. Do you want employees? I have a lot of clients going to say, I don't want employees. What type of customers do you want to work with? Do you want a service business or do you want a retail location? How many units do you want to own? Like I said, sometimes people own one, sometimes they want to own others. Is this a full-time or a part-time business for you? And what kind of environment do you want? All these things start to develop this business model we're talking about. Other things to think about, what are your household expenses? If you're looking for the business to pay for your mortgage and your rent and healthcare and things like that, how much does the business need to bring in? How much is it going to cost to open this business? And how much working capital is going to be required to keep that business going for 6 or 12 months? It's very important to know when you'll need income. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see entrepreneurs make, whether it's franchising or not franchising, is they don't allocate enough funds, whether it be personally going to fund. Earning potential, here's the good news. There's no correlation between how much you invest and what you're going to get back. Some of the most successful franchises are consulting franchises like Frannet, where it's very low cost to get into and a lot of upside reward. McDonald's, it's a great business, been around for a long time, but a lot of times people are surprised that the return on investment for the amount of money you have to put into a McDonald's is not that great. We have to focus on the net cash flow. So one of the things I help people do and the franchisors help you do is create projections for the business so you can see how long is it going to take for the business to break even and what's the upside earning potential. If you're going to have a manager run the business for you, you have to put that manager's salary in there. And one of the things a lot of people don't think about is resale. And one of the things I tell people is the less the business is about you personally, the more it's going to be worth. And a lot of people don't understand what I mean by that. Well, if we look at that restaurant where you're the hostess and you're the chef and you're managing the business, and then you decide to sell that restaurant, when a buyer comes in, they'll say, well, yeah, but you're running the whole business. If you leave, maybe my customers are going to leave. But in my Stretch Lab or my UPS stores, the customers don't know me. They know my staff. They know the manager. So therefore, when I sell those businesses, someone comes in and will say, hey, if I just oversee the staff that's already there, I will continue to make a profit. So sometimes we also have to look at the end game in mind. What do you want to do with this business when you're done? Do you want to pass it on to your kids? Do you want to sell it? What do you want to do with it? It's very important to understand that. Other things to think about was we have to identify your skills and your traits. So everyone has transferable skill sets, but a lot of times they don't think about personality and values and leadership style. So they think about their education, they think about their corporate job and what that entails, but they don't think how their personality and their core values factor in. So one of the things that Frannet did when we were founded years and years ago is we used DISC and Myers-Briggs, which a lot of you might be familiar with. We used the algorithms in those assessments to create one for business and entrepreneurship. So it asks a lot of the same questions, but it lets us know more about your personality, your leadership goals, your management style, values, these types of things. Are you good at sales? Are you not good at sales? These types of things. So Frannet, we offer at no charge for people to take this entrepreneur profile. It takes about 20 minutes. So at the very end of this presentation or through SBDC, if you're like, hey, I want to take that, I can actually send you a link totally confidential, probably take you 20 minutes, and then I'll send you the results back. And if you want to go over those results with me, I'd be happy to do so. Last thing is research. And I think this is really important. The two biggest mistakes I see people make when they're buying a business or starting a franchise is, one, they don't find the right fit. They go after something they heard about. Oh, a friend of mine started a Crumbles cookie, so I want to do that. Or I have a friend who owns a Subway, I think I want to do that. The match is very, very important. It's just like a relationship. The match is very important if you want to have a long-term relationship. Just as important is the research. So the process I take people through takes about 2 to 3 months. This is not something that gets rushed. I mean, once we identify the companies, the first thing we're going to want to do is talk to the franchisor and start getting a lot of your questions asked. As I mentioned earlier, we're also going to want to talk to the franchisees. We're going to want to talk to the people that are doing this day in and day out. We're going to want to go visit the parent company and meet with the top levels of management. And then lastly, we're going to want to consult with some professional advisors, a CPA, a franchise attorney, and things like that. So I help people through the process. It's not just me relating which businesses are the right fit for you. I actually help people through the research process. And again, there's no charge for this. Suggested reading. We talked about Built to Sell when I mentioned that the less the business is about you, the more it's worth. John Rurillo's book, Built to Sell, is a very, very good example of that. Probably one of the best books, and I'm sure SBDC, probably knows this book called E-Myth, is now called E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. It's kind of a tried and true standard entrepreneurial book, but what it covers is working on the business, not in the business, and why that's so important. And then lastly, for those of you that are interested in franchising as maybe a model to go into, Joe Matthews wrote a great book called Street Smart Franchise, and I think he's in the process of rewriting that now. So those are 3 really good books that I can recommend for people to look into. SBDC is probably one of your best resources out there. I'm a resource. SBA is a resource. So there are a lot of really good resources for you. And Small Business Development Center is definitely, I've been working with them since the 90s, I think now. And they're one of the best resources available for you out there. But also know that you can lean on me if you say, hey, I have questions or are not really sure what I want to do. Happy to do that. So before we go to Q&A and questions, which I think we're going to bring up here in just a minute. If you want to get a hold of me, there's all my contact information. If you want that a free entrepreneur profile, you can just click the QR code. But anything I can do to help, I'd be happy to. So now I'm going to turn it over to field any questions that are out there. What questions?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paige, for all of that information. I hope you guys were paying attention. We will be sending out the recording as well. So I know we have someone hard of hearing on, so we turned on the AI companion so that we can get the summary to provide for you on top of the recording. So we'll have all that information for you all as well. We did have one question that I was able to identify. How much is a dry bar franchise? So that was one of the questions in the chat. And if you guys have any other questions, please go ahead and drop those in the chat right now.
For reasons that I don't understand, they're between 1 million and 1.5 million.
Because of the industry, that's why.
But it's very expensive.
You saw the contribution of women, and so we're doing a lot of that spending. Just like your wife is going to get her lash extensions, there's just so many other women that we can't live without those types of things. So
I can't remember what casino we were in Las Vegas, but we walked in, they had a dry bar in there, and that there was standing room only.
correct.
Weddings and parties and all kinds of things. So they're good business.
Awesome. We have another questions. This one is again for the dry bar. How much revenue does the dry bar generate?
So here's one of the things I need to tell you as a generality. I'm not allowed to tell you how much money can be derived from starting a business. I show you how to go find out for yourself. Now, a lot of times people say, well, why don't you just tell me? Because it's very important to the Federal Trade Commission that you find it out on your own, because me or maybe even the franchisor say, oh, you're fine. You'll make $200,000. Don't worry. And you're like, okay, well, let me sign my check. They don't want you to do that. They want you to go out and talk to the owners and do a lot of research to make sure that what they purport in the franchise disclosure document is accurate.
Which makes a lot of sense. We want to make sure that we're covering the franchisor. We're trying to make you covered as well. You need to do the research, um, as you might be a franchisee. And so, there's some footwork behind it. So thanks for that. I have another one. Are beauty franchises usually more on the expensive end?
I'm going to say generally yes, because they're retail in nature. So whether it's a lash lounge or a dry bar or nail salon or anything like that, I would say on the low end, they're probably for the retail locations around 2 to 250,000. And as I mentioned with dry bar, they can be over $1 million. But a lot of the ones that whether it be hair or nails or lashes or things like that, I say they're probably in the $200,000 to $400,000 range total.
Awesome. We have another one. I guess everybody's trying to get on the beauty. Are there any beauty franchises you recommend? And I think if you guys do the QR code and get connected, you guys can go through that process, which will probably be a little bit more helpful than, just asking the question here in the session.
So, I'm going to answer it the way that I think makes the most sense. If someone comes to me and says, which house should I buy? I need to know more information, right? Same thing with which franchise. So a lash lounge may be perfect for one person and horrible for a next. A nail salon, vice versa, all these different things. So there's a lot of different components that go into it. Having said that, a lot of these beauty franchises are top rated, and these are very good, profitable businesses.
Perfect. We have another question. I have a business that is 8 years old and I want to start franchising it. Is Frannet able to help me as a new franchisor?
The answer is yes. I can have an initial conversation with you, and then I have a company I can refer you to that does all the legal aspects of it and writes all the documents and training manuals and everything else. So the answer is yes.
All right. Go ahead and make that connection. Pages, email addresses is there as well as the QR. So make sure you make that connection. Shelly says, does Frannet see the whole process through to purchase?
Yes.
Okay.
And afterwards, one of the things I tell my customers is after they buy a franchise, I'm not going anywhere. I have people that call me all the time and say, I've been doing this for 2 years. I need help selling it. Or, I want to open more locations. Or, people call me all the time for advice.
All right. Any other questions?
Great questions, by the way.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, no, this session was awesome. We do have a few other things to share with you guys if you don't have any additional questions. Oh wait. What if you already have taken the entrepreneur profile and spoke with someone at Frannet? What's next?
Just continue the process with them. You can tell them we all work together, especially here on the West Coast. We're all friends. And so if you say, hey, I went to one of Paige's workshops, you just mention it to them. We're not in competition with one another.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, well, I think that's it. I didn't want to miss anybody. We have a few upcoming workshops. Discovering the keys to business financing and loans. So that is going to be on March 18th, next Monday. So if you're available, come join us. We also have Grow with Google partnership, make your small business more accessible. And that's going to be May 2nd. I threw this in there really quickly because Paige was talking about statistics about women. And so we kind of shared this with our team last Friday. So we, as PCR SBDC, we serve 45% women. And so we're happy to say that in comparison to the national average, which is 25%, which is 20% over the national. So we are serving you ladies, and we want to continue to hear from you. So we do have a survey that will be going out. Please take the time to share your experience with today's session. Give us feedback. We're always trying to grow. We're always trying to pivot, and we're trying to make sure that you guys have all the information and resources that you guys need. We wanted to also share California Competes tax credit. This is available to you guys as a tax credit for small businesses. We have Dream Makers, and these are not our loans. We're just finding them and we're sharing them with you guys. So if you have any questions, please, reach out to those particular programs. This one is the Nancy Twine, and it is a grant program. It has not yet opened, but be on the lookout for that. Hello Alice, they have been doing grants throughout the pandemic. So there are a few. They do it on like a rotational. So if you've already submitted an application through them, it's always like a lottery. So they have a restaurant disaster relief fund, NAACP/L'Oreal Inclusive Beauty Fund, as well as the American Dream Awards. If there are any restaurant businesses on the County of Los Angeles, they have the Dine Out Los Angeles. So if you have a business that opened up a patio during the pandemic, and these are some workshops to help you to stay up to code and understanding what is available. On March 20th, we will be celebrating SBDC Day. So if the SBDC has helped you in any type of way, please help us to hashtag the SBDC. We have PCR SBDC LA. I think that's our handle. Briajani will type it in the chat just in case if I messed it up. Please continue to help us. We will reshare, we will do all of the things, and excited to celebrate SBDC Day. This is another SBDC Day. If there are any Spanish speakers, one of our sister SBDC centers within the Los Angeles network, they will be hosting an in-person event with several different workshops, all in Spanish. And so hopefully you guys can come out for that. We do have PCR lending as well. So if you're looking for access to capital, we can help you with that as well. If you have not connected with a business advisor, and you're looking to connect now, maybe you've just been coming to the workshops and you're like, okay, I guess I can start a business now. Well, yes, reach out to us. Info @pcrsbdc.org, and we would gladly take you into the fold. of our community and to help to serve you and so you can start to grow and succeed as a business owner. So that is it. We want to say thank you again so much, Paige, for coming out and sharing all of the information that you shared with us. Ladies, do the good work that you guys all do. Look to hearing from you guys soon. And if you guys need anything, please feel free to reach out to us. And I know there's some questions in the chat now. Do you have contacts for trademarking? We don't. We do. And I'm going to take your information down, Shelly, and I will share that. Because it's through another organization that does the trademarking. We don't do it specifically at our location. And then will you share loan slides again? Yes, let me go back. And then for the loans, you can go to, I'm going to type it in the chat really quickly. www.pcrcorp.org for loans. All right. Okay, thank you, Shelly. I have your information. All righty. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Enjoy yourselves and continue to celebrate Women's History Month.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I have one
Yeah.
question,
Yeah,
actually.
go ahead.
I have a SBDC advisor. Is that the same as the PCR advisor, or are there two different advisors?
So no, it's the same advisor. You can have, so you are with the SBDC overall?
Yes,
Okay. Do you know what center you're with?
Long Beach.
Long Beach. Okay, so your business advisor would be with Long Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they can connect me with any resources that PCR shares.
So yes, so you can attend any training workshop across the network, but we want you to focus on your advising at that particular location. So if you're with the Lead Center, then your primary advisor and your referrals between the Lead Center, that would circulate within the Lead Center. But like you're attending today's workshop, we are always, sharing the information. You can also be added to like our e-blast that we send out on a weekly basis, so that you can get some of like the resources that we shared today.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Are there any more workshop webinars specifically for women in business? Actually, I don't think that we have any more specifically for women in business or women-owned franchises. We did want to commit a workshop because it's Women's History Month. And so today was that workshop, but we're always hosting different types of workshops as well. And yeah, just be on the lookout on our website, www.pcrsbdc.org. We're always sharing and doing partnership with other organizations to help to bring you guys information that you may not have known about or you may not have access to. All righty, I hope I answered everyone's questions. Have a great, great day, ladies. Until next time.